Welcome to the show, everyone. Today I'm going to be sharing something that will completely change the way that you sell your services and win more work. Because right now, whether you realize this or not, your business is losing jobs every single week and month, and it's nothing to do with your price, it's not the economy, or how many competitors that you've got out there. It's because most trades and construction business owners, they try to sell with logic. They explain what they do, how they do it, and why they're good. But customers don't make decisions with logic first. They make them emotionally, and then they use the logic after to justify it. And that's why today we're going to be talking about benefits and pain points, because they're what actually connects emotionally and make someone feel understood, make them feel seen, make them feel safe and confident choosing you. And this is the difference between being the business that becomes the obvious choice on purpose versus the one that just hopes that someone's going to pick them. Now, if you've ever had a customer say, yeah, we'll have a think about it and let you know, and they never come back, or you've just lost a job to someone who's cheaper, even though you know that your quality is miles better. And this is exactly why. You see, when you learn how to communicate the right benefits and the right pain points in the right way, you stop chasing clients, you stop explaining yourself, you stop having to justify all of your prices, and instead, the customer ends up convincing themselves why they need to work with you, not the other way around. And that's when you'll start winning jobs at better prices with less effort. So, let's get into it.
Welcome to the Elite Trades Community Podcast. The place where we help the trades and construction industry to nail their marketing, cut down their hours, build their business, lay down the tools, and raise the roof on profits. So, get ready to take some notes from your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Quick tip before we do. Note-taking is highly recommended because you're never going to remember everything that we're going through on this episode. So feel free to pause it now and we can continue when you're ready. Now, we need to get this core concept tight because this is the foundation for everything else in this episode. You see, most trades describe themselves using features instead of benefits. And I know that sounds like a marketing line, but I want you to actually feel the difference. You see, a feature is the job, it's the task, it's the literal thing being done, where a benefit is the outcome, it's the emotional shift, it's the improvement in your customer's life. So, as an example, if you install kitchens and bathrooms and that's your headline, we install kitchens and bathrooms, that's a feature. If you rewire a house, that's a feature. If you repair roofs, it's a feature. If you build extensions, again, it's a feature. But none of that explains why the customer should care. You see, none of that hits emotionally. None of it changes the way that they feel. So listen to this. Let's take kitchens as an example. The feature would be we install kitchens, where if you were to change that to the benefits, you could say, I'm going to help you create a modern space that feels amazing to be in, where your family actually want to spend time together, where cooking doesn't feel like a chore, but feels like part of enjoying your home. Also, whilst adding long-term value to your property. You see, that's a completely different emotional experience that you're taking them on there. So let's take heating engineers as an example. So instead of installing boilers, you want to say, I'm going to make sure that your home stays warm, comfortable, and stress-free all winter. So you're not waking up worried that today's the day the boiler's finally going to give up. Again, it's emotional and it hits. A roofer, as an example, rather than saying we repair and replace roofs, you want to go in with the benefits being I'm going to remove that anxiety that you feel every time it rains and give you long-term security that your home is protected. Or as an electrician, rather than saying full rewires and certification, you could say, I'm going to make your home feel safe again so you're not worried about sparks, about faults, about risks, especially if you've got young children. Or maybe you're a landscaper and you could say, rather than patio and garden installations, you could say, I'm going to transform your outdoor space into a place that you actually use. Relaxing, You can feel proud to show it off to your friends and family. And can you see how this is changing everything now? It's the same job, the same tools, the same materials, but the communication creates more desire. So now that I've given you some examples, we're going to talk about the emotional side of decision making. You see, every decision that someone makes about hiring you is emotional before it's logical. And this is where most trades mess up because they assume that the customer is comparing, quotes, logically, but they're not. They're trying to make a decision that feels safe. They're trying to avoid regret, stress, or embarrassment. They're trying to avoid being taken advantage of. Yeah, they're trying to avoid the mess, the disruption, the uncertainty. They want to feel like they can trust the person that they're letting into their home. They want to feel like the job will be handled properly without them needing to micromanage everything. They want to feel like they're not going to be surprised or blindsided by costs or delays. And the moment that your messaging can acknowledge all of this, they'll start to trust you more. And when you can say stuff like, listen, I understand you've probably heard horror stories and, jobs dragging on or people disappearing, there's mess everywhere, stress and frustration. And I want you to know that my process is designed to make this easy, it's clear, it's clean, and it's predictable. The customer feels understood now. When you can say things like, I know you're not just getting new windows, you want to make your home feel warmer, you want it to be quieter and you're more secure. Now you're filling them with reassurance. You see, emotional understanding builds trust instantly. When you can get across in your marketing that you're not just fitting a bathroom for people, you're creating a space where their day starts calm and it ends relaxed. They feel excited now, not overwhelmed. When you can say things like, I know choosing a contractor feels risky, so here's how I keep you updated in control from start to finish. Now they feel safe. And when someone feels understood and they feel safe and confident and excited, you no longer need to persuade them. They persuade themselves. And this is the emotional buying psychology. They buy based on what you made them feel, and they use logic to justify that decision after they've already chosen you emotionally. So let me give you just a few more real life examples with real emotional positioning. Maybe you're a fencing specialist and you could say, I'm going to create a garden where you can relax without feeling overlooked or exposed or people invading your privacy. Or maybe you're a loft conversion expert and you could say, I'm going to give you the extra space that you and your family need without leaving the home that you all love so much. Or maybe you're a solar installer and you could say something along the lines of, I'm going to help you take control of your energy so you feel protected from rising bills and future uncertainty. Notice how none of these talk about the tools, the materials, or the technical features. They speak to lifestyle, to comfort, to pride, to security. You see, when you're speaking emotional outcomes, customers don't compare you to others because they feel like you get them. And that's what makes you the obvious choice. Okay, so now I want you to use pain points and benefits in everything that you do. Here's where everything becomes real. Because it's one thing to understand the benefits and pain points, but it's another thing to actually speak and market it in this way consistently across your whole business. And this is where most people slip back into old habits because they do one Facebook post that sounds emotional and powerful, and then the next day they're back to posting a before and after with no explanation. Or they communicate well in person, but they send a cold, boring email when they send a quote. Consistency is the difference between a moment of connection and a reputation of trust. You need to speak pain and benefit everywhere. On your website homepage, in your about section, in your service descriptions, in all of your social media captions, in your quote summaries, in your follow-up messages, in your proposal introductions, in the way that you answer the phone, and especially in the way that you talk when you're physically standing inside someone's home. You see, when you consistently articulate the pain the customer is already experiencing and the outcome that they really want, they stop comparing you like for like to other people. You become the person who understands them, and when someone feels understood, they already feel halfway there to choosing you. Now let's go even deeper into what's actually happening inside your customer's mind. Because when you understand the psychology behind why people buy, your messaging stops sounding like marketing and starts sounding like reassurance now. Now, the customer doesn't fear the price. They're going to spend money with someone. What they fear is making the wrong choice. They fear hiring someone who disappears halfway through the job. They fear being left with delays, mess, stress, awkward conversations and hidden costs that are creeping in. They fear embarrassment and regret. They fear having to explain to their partner or family that they chose the wrong person for the job. That fear is sitting in front and center of their mind constantly when they're deciding to choose. And this fear is generally stronger than the desire to save money. And that's why the cheapest quote doesn't always win. The safest one is the one that generally wins. So when your messaging directly acknowledges the fears that they're already experiencing, you neutralize that fear before it has chance to grow. And you can say things like, listen, I know that communication is one of the biggest complaints that people have when hiring a joiner. But that's why I send daily updates, clear timelines, and always let you know exactly what's happening next. And I know some of this stuff can sound a bit cheesy to say, but it's stuff that you've got to say because it's reassuring them, because this is the stuff that's going on in their mind. These are the questions and fears that they have. So you could say things like, I know that letting someone in your home is personal, and that's why we protect all of your floors, we cover all of your surfaces, we clean up fully every single day, and we treat your home as if it was our own. Or you could say things like, listen, I know, I get it, that price changes halfway through a job are a big worry. So we use fixed price agreements with a clear scope so there's no surprises. You see, when you're speaking to their fear like this, they feel safe. And when they feel safe, they trust you. Yeah? And people, like I said, people don't choose the cheapest option. They generally choose the option that feels least risky. Now let's talk about what really compounds your content, because most people think that your content is about showing the work, before and afters, progress shots, finished projects, but the customer doesn't know what they're looking at. They can't tell the difference between good brickwork and great brickwork. They don't know what the difference is with the pipework, if it's immaculate or average. They don't understand workmanship to the level that you do. So they can't value it in a way that you want them to do it. But they do understand how they feel in their home. And they do know the problem they're currently dealing with. So when you're posting content, don't just show the job, explain the transformation. So instead of posting a patio picture and saying, another job done, you can say this. This family hadn't used their garden in years because it didn't feel welcoming. Now they've got a space where they can relax in the evening, they can invite friends over and actually enjoy being outside again. That is emotional positioning. Or instead of posting a boiler saying, install completed, say this. This customer was waking up every morning worried that the heating would fall again. Now the home is consistently warm, the bills are lower, and winter isn't stressful anymore. Again, it's emotional messaging. That's what makes people feel something. So always make sure that your content speaks to the pain and the emotional benefit instead of the task. Because when you do that, everything changes and people stop scrolling. They can pay attention and they recognize themselves in what you're saying. And they think to themselves, that's exactly what we're dealing with right now. Or, God, that sounds just like us. And this is where trust is built before the inquiry ever even happens. When someone has seen 10, 20, 50 pieces of content from you that all clearly show that you understand their situation and you know how to fix it, when they need that service, they don't look around, they go straight to you. Because content builds familiarity and that builds trust. Trust builds buying decisions. Now let's talk about the moment where most businesses lose the job, and it's the quote. You see, most quotes are just a price and a short description. And if you look like every other quote, you speak like every other quote, and you present yourself like every other quote, then the customer's only comparison is the price. And if the only comparison is price, the cheapest one is going to win pretty much every time. So your proposal must communicate 3 things before the customer ever sees the cost. 1, I understand you. 2, I will look after you. And 3, this is worth it and this is why. And your proposal should not start with the price. It should start with reassurance and emotional grounding. Something like, thank you for inviting us to quote your project. I understand how important it is that your job is done properly, with clear communication, reliable timelines, and respect at all times for your home. My goal is to make this process smooth, predictable, and stress-free while delivering a result that you'll feel proud of. Then, when you describe the work, you don't just list the materials and labor, you describe the outcome. So you can put, this extension will create the additional space for your family and you can enjoy your home again without the stress of moving. Now, the customer is emotionally connected before they've even got to the price. Next, you add social proof, but not just generic like, great job, thanks. Instead, what you want to do is use testimonials that speak to the exact fears that the customer already has. Reviews that say things like, we were nervous about hiring another builder because our last experience was stressful, but the communication was clear every single day and they made the whole process so easy. You see, that type of review removes objections before they even happen. Then, and only then, can you present the price. Now, the price becomes the confirmation of value, not the determining factor. And this is how you win quotes at higher margins with less resistance and without lowering your standards or negotiating your worth. Once you start communicating like this, your entire business can transform. Your leads improve because the people that are contacting you, they already trust you. Your conversations become easier because the customer already sees you as the safe choice. Your proposals convert higher because the emotional decision is already made before the financial decision. And your pricing power increases because when you're seen as the secure, reliable, and understanding option, people will pay more to avoid the risk. And you feel more confident because you're no longer trying to sell yourself. The value speaks for itself. And here's the best part. You're not changing the work. You're not changing anything that you're doing or hours you're putting in. The only thing you're changing what you're doing is the way that you communicate around the work. You're changing the meaning of the work. You're shifting the customer's emotional experience of what it feels like to choose you. And when someone feels emotionally understood and logically reassured, they stop shopping around now. They stop hesitating and asking questions. They choose you because you feel like the right choice. So I hope that you got value from this episode. If you did, then please leave us a review, share the episode, and if you're not already inside our 168,000 strong Facebook group and community, then the link is in the description. And if you want help implementing any of this, rewriting your messaging, upgrading your website, or improving your proposals or your content, then reach out to us at Elite Trades Community. And remember that your tools build jobs, but your communication builds a business. And I'll see you in the next episode.